Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, Cedat, that College of Engineering, Design and Art of Makerere University, plus Redr-Uk. Today we had, I remember if any of you attended the courses, you remember Katie. Today she's here with us. Katie, I would like to request you to come and take the seat. And also, we've also been having the Royal Academy of Engineering. I've been part of the program, the GCRM program from 2017, from the first phase up to the fourth phase, where we've been implementing a number of activities through the women engineers, technicians, and technologists. I would like to thank and welcome Melina, who is the program manager. She's also here today to come and share with us and network with us. Please, Melina, please come and take up your seats. Engineer Andrew, he's our president of Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, to welcome the guests and give us his opening remarks. And welcome.
The programs manager, Royal Academy of Engineering, the programs manager, Redr-Uk, past president of Uipe, executive secretary, representatives of Uipe branches, members from the NGO world, our distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you on behalf of the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers to this networking event. By way of introduction, I'm Engineer Andrew Mwezi, President of the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers. This event, as you can see from the program, has been made possible by a combination of efforts from partners. The Royal Academy of Engineering, Redr-Uk, Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, and the College of Engineering, Design, Art and Technology, Makerere University. And I'd like to take this opportunity to register our appreciation to Royal Academy of Engineering and Redr for continuing to support the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers in its efforts to make its contribution to the development of this country. This networking event is part of the arrangements to interface the partners, to interface with the different actors who have benefited from the training on humanitarian skills program. Where, to my knowledge, I think, but by the end we finish this phase, we shall have over 130 trained. The exact figures can be determined, but that we shall have over 130 trained humanitarian skills professionals through this program. And as you are aware, we are a country which is vulnerable to several disaster situations, as you may have experienced, or as you may have read about it in the media. So it can either be one of the two. Either you have experienced, or you have read about it. But you must have seen floods, you must have seen fires, you must have seen buildings collapsing. And all these definitely disrupt normal livelihoods. Therefore, our belief is that the skills acquired will empower the trainees or the participants to meaningfully contribute to providing relief to affected people in an effective and safe way. And as Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, we are preparing ourselves to tap into these skills to make use of them in a sustainable way. So we have established a humanitarian squad, which will also have volunteer teams within our branch operational framework. Because it would be a very big disservice to this country if we got skills and the skills are just left to remain hanging. So we must create a framework in which these skills can be utilized. As I've given you a brief overview, that the magnitude of skills, of disasters, or where humanitarian skills are needed in relief situations, is a very big extent. You have also seen, as you are aware, that Uganda is host to many refugee communities. In the last week, you have seen an expanse of refugees coming into the country from the DRC. And whereas we are aware that we already have many relief agencies involved in this, it is our patriotic duty, having been trained, to make sure we organize ourselves and we complement the work already being done by these humanitarian agencies. Several of them are already involved in humanitarian work. But as you can see, there is need for more efforts. And engineers are better placed to work with other professionals to make sure we provide the needed support. For instance, you know that when people are displaced, you need to provide hygiene kits, you need to provide access to safe water, you need to provide sanitation, some form of shelter, so that at the end of it all, we can maintain human dignity in the face of disaster. And I think that will be a very noble contribution we'll be having. As Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, this year we are celebrating 50 years since we were established and 50 years of our contribution to the development of this country. We are therefore happy that Redr organized this event at a time when we are also building up momentum towards our celebrations, which will be in December. We are also having a number of build-up activities. For instance, on the 30th, 28th, I think, we shall be having a blood donation drive across our different branches. And we encourage you to turn up and donate some blood, because this is something which is needed by everybody at any one time. And several other activities which our teams are working on. So we are happy that as we look forward into the future, reflecting on the last 50 years, we are now at the nexus of the last 50 years and the next half of the century. We would want to make our participation in humanitarian situations one of our key functions, especially now that we have built a critical mass of resource professionals within the country. And as later on you are aware, we are going to be joined by the Honorable Minister of Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, who is also the patron of the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, Honorable Engineer Redr-Uk, whom I'm sure is going to share with us more about what he has seen in the ministry and the gap that remains to be fulfilled. Our panelists, I'm sure, are also going to bring with them the rich agenda they have with them from their experience and provide useful insights. I therefore want to take this singular honor and opportunity to once again, on behalf of the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, to welcome you to this networking event and wish you very fruitful deliberations. Prepare for the future, for God and my country. Thank you very much. Without much ado, I want to take this opportunity to welcome Madam Kati Baiten, Programs Manager, Redr, speak to us at this moment. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you very much to President Andrew and Uipe and Cedat for having me here today, and to all of you for having me here in Kampala. It's really a pleasure to be here today at this event and in Uganda. So yeah, a very big thank you and a warm welcome to everyone here today. My name's Katie. I think a lot of you know me mainly from emails, so now you can put a face to the name. I'm Programme Manager at Redr-Uk, so I coordinate this project along with Uipe and Cedat from the Redr side. I'm just going to do a bit of an introduction to Redr-Uk this morning, and a bit of an overview of what we've got to look forward to this morning as well. Hopefully lots of you are aware of Redr-Uk already, but just in case, we are an international NGO and learning provider. We predominantly develop capacity and support aid workers, organisations and communities around the world to prepare for and respond to crises across the humanitarian development and peace building context. We work across a real broad range of sectors and topics, from more technical areas in WASH and shelter to more generalist topics, humanitarian principles and standards, alongside lots of cross-cutting topics of gender protection, etc., etc. We work in lots of emergency responses as well. We are currently responding in Ukraine, also doing a drought response in Kenya and Somalia, close to here, as well as a flood response in Pakistan. Our roots though are really in the engineering sector. The name Redr originally stood for the Register of Engineers for Disaster Relief. That's how we started over 40 years ago. We held a roster for engineers supporting humanitarian responses around the world. The world has changed a lot in 40 years, and Redr has too, but we still very much continue to try and bridge the gap between the engineering and the humanitarian sectors. As President Andrew said, lots of value and fantastic technical skills that the engineers can bring to those responses. And yeah, at Redr-Uk, we really try and bring the two sectors together, much like in this project and hopefully in this event here today. We have a really big reach as Redr-Uk, even though our primary office is in the UK. We do also have offices all around the world, and we are registered in Kenya and Sudan as well, in this area in particular. We have nearly 2,000 members, as well as about 200 trainers and experts around the world who support on our projects and programs. So we're a fairly small NGO with a fairly large reach and footprint around the world. This project that we're all here for today, the Humanitarian Skills for Engineers, is a really key one for us. It's a really fantastic project that we're really proud of, bringing together our engineering heritage that I just spoke about, our humanitarian expertise, as well as our experience and our excellence in training. Hopefully lots of you are aware of the overall aim of that project, but it really is to support engineers in Uganda to be better utilised in humanitarian responses and disaster relief, where engineering technical skills are often really critical and sometimes underutilised. I think a few of you here today have been on our Humanitarian Skills for Engineers course, and it's really, really lovely to put some faces to the names from that course. This year on the project we are going a bit further and working with NGOs as well, and much like this event here today, trying to bring the two sectors together, and we'll also be shortly launching a scheme to fund small projects in collaboration between humanitarians and engineers as well, which you will hear a little bit more about later on today. So yes, I'm very pleased to be here today. Thank you again for having me. It's fantastic to be able to visit Kampala in Uganda and Uipe and Cedat, having worked with them since 2020 now. So a few years over the pandemic. So it's very nice to be able to be here in person today. I just wanted to give a quick overview. Hopefully everyone has the agenda on their in their packs. We have a really exciting morning for you this morning. We've got a brilliant panel of speakers just coming up, as well as Minister Hilary Onek, who is our chief guest today. There will also be lots of opportunity for you all to participate and network, and there'll be a Q&A after the panel, as well as a speed dating later on, and lots of chance for networking and getting to know each other. That really is the main aim of today, to get everyone networking and hopefully meeting some people that you haven't met before. So that's it for me. I just wanted to finish off by reiterating and saying a big thank you again to the Royal Academy of Engineering, without which this day and this project wouldn't be possible, because they are the funders for the overall Humanitarian Skills project, and it's really fantastic to have Melina here today to speak to us a little bit more about the wider academy work as well. So thank you. That's it from me. You'll hear more from me a little bit later on. But thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, allow me to take the singular honor and opportunity to welcome the Programs Manager of the Royal Academy of Engineering, Madame Marina San Martin, to speak to us. Thank you.
Today, it was a very lovely coincidence to be in Uganda. So Katie, Cedat, and Uipe, thank you very much for the invitation. I won't take much of your time. I'm just going to give you a very brief introduction of the work of the Academy in Africa, which was very difficult to frame in a 5-minute presentation, but I'll do my best. Yes, thank you, Katie. So first of all, at the Academy, we are a national academy, of course, based in London, but we have a global outlook. So our mission is to advance engineering's contribution to a safer, healthier, more prosperous world, tackling the global challenges of our time. So in order to do that, we have several programs at the Academy, and 2 of the programs that I manage are HEPSA and Africa Catalyst, which I think many of you may be already aware with them. But what's our approach to building those programs and developing those programs? So in 2012, the Academy and partners, including Engineers Against Poverty, created Engineers for Africa report, where we analyzed what was the situation of engineering in the continent and what was needed and what were the gaps, basically. So we identify a few themes. which included a lack of skilled and experienced engineers, a loss of talent to other countries, a very large diaspora from Africa, weak engineering institutions, and low levels of public investment and national standards. So in order to address all these very pressing challenges, we designed 3 programs, with the Academy as our convener, as you can see on the triangle, putting entrepreneurs with the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation, working with universities through our higher education partnerships with Sub-Saharan Africa program, and working with professional bodies with our Africa Catalyst program. So first of all, the Africa Prize, I don't manage the Africa Prize, but if you're interested, please come to see me so I can give you an address so you can write and have more information. But it's a wonderful prize that we are extremely proud of the Academy that aims to stimulate, celebrate, and reward innovation and entrepreneurship in Sub-Saharan Africa. So it consists on 8 months of tailored training and mentoring for 16 shortlists that culminates in a showcase event, which is extremely fun. So I will encourage you to watch in November, with a winning prize of 25K. And since launch, as you can see on the slides, we supported 118 innovators and startups in 18 different countries across Sub-Saharan Africa, and the shortlists have raised an additional 14.5 million. And our main motto behind this program, as you can see on the screen, is one innovator can change a community, but a network can transform a continent. It's one of the programs that I manage, the higher education partnerships in Sub-Saharan Africa, in which we have been collaborating with Makerere University in several occasions. And basically, with this program, we aim to bring engineering curricula and teaching closer to the needs of industry. So this program works through a hub and spoke model that has proven to be highly effective in continent, because one of our main objectives is to fuel collaboration, and we're doing it through this model in which we have a hub university in continent collaborating with different spokes across the region, one UK partner and industry partners in continent, but also internationally. So as you can see, since launch, we have supported 36 projects across 21 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. And as I said, there's always a UK higher institution involved in these projects, because we're very keen to see that collaboration and knowledge transfer. And the Africa Catalyst is not focused on universities, but rather in engineering institutions. We aim to create strong professional engineering institutions to effectively promote the profession and increase local engineering capacity. We have been collaborating with Redr on this program as well, because we see capacity development taking different forms and different approaches. This program has proved highly effective in prompting different initiatives that are a little bit out of the box. And at the moment, we have closed our latest call, so we'll be launching new programs next week, both for Africa Catalyst and also for HAPSA. And then we also have Engineering X as part of the Academy. Engineering X has several programs that if you type Royal Academy of Engineering, Engineering X on Google, you will see all the many initiatives that they have. But this event is part of Engineering Skills Where They Are Most Needed program that aims to support the delivery of skills and education programs, to develop skills, capacity, enhance safety standards, and infrastructure to be safe and fit for purpose. But as part of that, our Engineering X department, we also have Distinguished International Associate, which I thought would be of your interest, as it aims to develop and intensify collaborations between international engineers and the UK, developing a broad international network of excellence across countries and discipline. And this scheme is currently open and closes on the 21st of November. So if you want more information, of course, just grab me after this. And for the safer end of engineer life, there is a grant scheme open at the moment as well. That scheme specifically looks to fund projects to tackle the open burning of waste that leads to the reduction of risk to human health and safety. So very much related to this, the purpose of this event, I'll say. You can apply for that before November the 8th. And then another opportunity, I told you it was very hard to comprise everything in 5 minutes, but another opportunity is the Frontiers program. So the Frontiers program consists of different symposiums that are organized across the region with the objective to connect and empower enthusiastic researchers, innovators, and practitioners to discuss and address and design how to better tackle different development problems and challenges affecting the continent. So there's a new symposium happening in January about reversing environmental degradation. It's going to be virtual, so if you want to assist, you can just type on the Academy website and sign the form. And yes, and as I put there, the band will examine the next step and identifying practical interventions to prevent environmental degradation, both in Africa, but also Asia. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you very much. I have one more thing to say. Just to say that we're extremely proud at the Royal Academy to support projects as this one that we'll be discussing today, especially because as an academy, we're very focused on finding ways to tackle or mitigate climate change. And probably, well, you said it already, we are seeing all the consequences and the challenges that climate change will pose on our societies. So it's an honor to be here and to listen to very highly prepared engineers to see how we can better tackle this, how we can better collaborate. And at the Royal Academy, we are proud partners of all these organizations, and we look forward to continue building these partnerships and together define what will be the next steps and what we need to do in order to make sure that we are building a society that works for everyone, that is sustainable, that is resilient, and that is inclusive. Thank you.
We have Engineer Dr. Mark from UNRWA. We have Dr. Abubakar from Makerere, Cedat. We have Mr. Rashid Maweje from Oxfam, representing the NGOs. And then we have Lieutenant Chikomeko from UPDF. Can you give, first of all, welcome our panelists with a round of applause. We are going to start by having the panelists first introduce themselves to us, because I think they know themselves more than us. I will start from my immediate left, Lieutenant Chikomeko. Could you please introduce yourself, and you could also tell us what you think is the importance of engineers in humanitarian and development projects in this country.
Thank you very much, moderator. By names, I'm Lieutenant Engineer Chikomeko Chigongo Ali. I'm a civil engineer by profession. I serve the forces, Uganda People's Defense Forces, in the engineering field. And one of the core mandates of UPDF is to support the nation in times of disaster. And disaster is one of the moments where humanity is tested to its limits. As one of the core applications of this world is engineering, and I strongly believe that all these humanitarian needs, at the forefront of it all must be engineering services in terms of infrastructure, public health, environmental mitigation. There are quite many. I've just mentioned those.
Yeah, Thank you, Lieutenant. Can you give him another round of applause for... Yes, you know, UPDF is a national army, and they do a lot of work. As much as we are concerned engineering, they have an engineering brigade which does a lot of work in this country. I go next to Mr. Maweji from Oxfam, representing NGOs. I'm going to give you the same questions because this is format of introduction. You could introduce yourself and also tell us why do you think it's important for engineers to be involved in the humanitarian and development projects in this country.
Thank you so much. Maweji Rashid. I'm the Public Health Promotion Team Leader for Southwest Oxfam Operations, and I'm an environmentalist, environmental health by profession. Going straight to your question on the role and importance of engineers, I'll relate this to our humanitarian work. I want to mention that while delivering humanitarian response across the globe, it is important that engineering aspects are embedded or integrated across sectors. And just to begin with, while promoting public health within the humanitarian setting, it is important that we have engineers as well as public health practitioners working jointly together. Because just like the President mentioned, that while we face crises, humanitarian crises, these people we tend to deal with are vulnerable people that come without anything, and access to dignified sanitary facilities and also water facilities becomes too challenging and an issue that requires both engineers and public health professionals to deliver. Engineers come with a very big role of actually installation of the infrastructure, water supply systems, sanitary facilities, and then the public health part enhance behavior change communication initiatives. And to me, that can't be realized without the role of engineers, especially in also ensuring that there's quality assurance, there's adherence to agreed guidelines and standards, looking at the sphere, looking at the government standards, you know, that all needs the role of engineers. But also, if we are to address the refugee crisis, looking at a holistic kind of approach, it is important that engineers play a big role across sectors. Yeah, call it livelihood, call it environment. It is important that engineers are part and parcel of the response. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashid. Give him a round of applause for... Yeah, he has highlighted that engineers play a big role in the NGO world, where they use their skills to enhance the livelihood of humanity in those areas. Thank you very much. Dr. Abubekar from Cedat, Makerere University, the same questions I'm posing to you. Can you just introduce yourself and also tell us the importance of engineers? I know you are the people who form the engineers in the early ages of their career while they're in the undergraduate school, and of course maybe even for the graduate school. So can just give you the floor.
Thank you, panel chair. My name is Abubekar Matofuwaswa. I'm the current head of department, electrical and computer engineering at Makerere University, and within the College of Engineering, Design, Art and Technology. I believe engineering is at the center of everything, including a disaster scenario. Here, their biggest contribution, of course, will be mainly to design and plan solutions. First of all, these solutions could be solutions, first of all, to avert a disaster scenario, because I'm very sure nobody wants to be in a disaster. So it's very important that we plan and design solutions that kind of avert any disaster scenario. Things like a dam to hold water so that it doesn't burst into a community. Things like putting up the correct infrastructure so that it doesn't collapse on our public and therefore causing another disaster scenario. So an engineer is very important, even before a disaster happens by ensuring whatever infrastructure, whatever things or solutions people are using in their day-to-day lives are trying to meet their demands without posing any risk onto them. Secondly, of course, there are those scenarios where probably it was unavoidable that the disaster happens. And in those cases, of course, the engineer is meant to also provide a cost-effective solution in these cases. Engineers are typically doing research in the academia to try to find which are the cost-effective solutions there are in many of the scenarios. And of course, they also design for the worst case scenario. And also when the disaster happens, then the engineer should come up with a solution that is cost effective, ensuring that I provide water. For example, in a refugee crisis, how do I provide water in a cost effective manner to a given mass of people that I did not plan for? How do I ensure that there is communication? Because again, communication is key between the communities, because otherwise there could be a source of rumor, and you need a way to avert a rumor from causing another disaster. We've heard of scenarios whereby there is a stampede. So if you have good communication between all the different communities that are living there, then you can avoid a scenario that can lead to another disaster amidst a disaster. Then, of course, there is the infrastructure that we put up, because in a disaster scenario, you need to put up quick infrastructure. How do I quickly put up housing? How do I quickly put up a communication infrastructure? How do I quickly put up the several things that people need in their day-to-day life, even within a disaster? Because it doesn't mean that certain things will stop during a disaster. We need food to be distributed. We need people to use sanitary infrastructure, and all this needs to be put up in a very cost-effective manner, and so that everybody at the end of the day is happy. And of course, for us in the academia, we try to expose our students to the many different possibilities, so that, again, when there's a scenario, then they are put to use in ensuring that these possibilities are put in place in an appropriate manner, in a cost-effective manner. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, moderator. Just so that I introduce myself for the third time. I'm Engineer Dr. Rubarenzia, but I'm known to all of you, having served as chairman of Kampala branch and vice president of the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers. Honors that I really appreciate even to this time. And I'm glad to see that what we started is really, really growing over and above what we would have imagined. So I'd like to congratulate my current president. You show good leadership, and we wish you all the best. I come here to speak on behalf of the executive director of UNRWA, Madame Allen Kajina. She had planned to be here in person, but urgent national duties have kept her from being here. So she sends her regards and acknowledges the good work that we as engineers are doing in creating a better Uganda. More about myself. I happen to be very active with the World Road Association. I am the vice president of the World Road Association, and I also serve on the technical committee on climate change, adaptation, and resilience of road networks. I'm also very active in the Transportation Research Board of the US, where I sit on 3 standing committees. One is the International Coordinating Council, which coordinates all TRB work that's done out of the United States. I also sit on the Standing Committee on Transportation in Developing Countries, and I also sit on the Standing Committee that deals with strategic management. So I have had the opportunity of being very active professionally in the country and now globally. And so that gives me a very good appreciation of the context in the transportation and wider engineering sector across the world. So we're very glad that we have partnership. Partnership is the only way to go in a sector as complex and as needed as ours. So Redr, Royal Academy of Engineers. Great to have you along. You've got lots of friends in the UK, in the European Union. I tell them to come and partner with us. We've got a competent president and he's got a good team. We'll take good care of you and your resources. So in the context of engineers and our role in humanitarian work, my colleagues have ably taken, they've stolen the show. There's nothing really I'd like to add to what they say, except to give some context, because we have, sometimes we just lump this thing into one category. But you know, when we break this down, that's where we can actually see our input, as in like me and you. We can go away and see this is where we fit, as opposed to being in this broad blanket. So if we think about what's happening now, what's challenging us in Uganda, we've got biodiversity challenges. We've got climate change. We've got energy and sustainability. You know, sometimes we even have too much energy and we just don't know how to get it to the people. And then in other cases, there's people who don't have energy. And there's sustainability. My professor colleague can speak more to this. We've got epidemics and pandemics that are challenging us in multiple ways. How we fit into the globalization matrix, urbanization, rapid urbanization, which is leaving the countryside bare when we are still primarily agro-based economy, inequality, large-scale national disasters, and refugee crisis. These are just some of the areas. And so we see that looking at it from the lens of public works, engineers are very, very central because in a previous life, I worked with the water sector. And so there are unique challenges that are related to water that link to education and health and general welfare of the community. Right now, I sit in the transportation sector, where if you're talking about roads, we're talking about national roads, district roads, community access roads, all of which tend to be affected in different ways in cases of natural disaster because of their level of service and the way they're designed, as well as how easily they support relief to come in. So they have to be dealt with differently. You can't lump them as roads. And then within the works sector, then you look at housing and structures. That's part of the works sector. Communication. And so it's really broad, and you notice that all of these require unique engineering skills. And so there's a place for all of us, irrespective of what your engineering domain is. But there is a need for some form of centralization. Because when we talk about humanitarian, then we're not just talking about what our good colleagues in Makerere taught us and the skills we have learned in our job settings. But now that sets in other skills, the softer skills that we need to have: communication, management, socio-economic. And so that's where partnering with organizations like Redr-Uk, like Rotary, Lions, and we've got several other communities, several other societies that we could partner with. It's going to help us engineers translate the skills and expertise that we have to be able to leverage it to support humanitarian activities across the country. So,
yeah, we can go to the second rounds of questions now, which are specific to the groups we have here. I will start by going to the NGO representative, Mr. Makerere. Yeah, can you tell us about a good example of where in any project where an engineer or engineers played for implementation of that humanitarian project?
Thank you so much. There are quite a number of examples and projects where engineers have played a very vital role in actually rolling out the projects. One of it is that the humanitarian response presents some challenges as we move along. And some of these challenges require unique solutions that are normally provided by engineers through research and innovation. And there are quite a number. I'll give an example of where we are providing sanitary facilities to refugees as they come in. Sometimes the soil formations don't favor construction of these facilities, and they call for adjustment in designs that suit the context. Yeah, I'll give an example of Western Nile where we find some challenges of rocky soil formations that can't favor excavation of a 3-meter pit to put up a communal facilities, for example. This calls for maybe an above ground latrine design that can still suit the purpose. This has happened across, and that is working. Engineers have really contributed to that, but also looking at the multi-sectoral kind of approach I was talking about. I'll give an example. For example, environmental restoration and protection. We've been having issues of encroachment on water catchment areas that require protection, that really require restoration. We've have engineers played a very big role, for example, in Chaka refugee settlement, where one of our biggest dam, actually serving 80% of the settlement, was at the verge of drying up. And this was a very big crisis for the entire settlement. Engineers came together, they looked at the problem and designed solutions. And some of these solutions actually included the silting of the dam, weed removal of the dam, and fencing off of the dam. Without support from engineers, I don't think that would have been possible. Yeah. The other aspect is also on livelihoods. For example, whenever we are constructing water systems, water infrastructure, there's an aspect of cash for work as the community excavates pipelines and backfills these trenches. There's an aspect of cash for work where we engage local communities to do the simple work, and then they get something in return. And this is a source of livelihood. Yeah, and as we move towards rolling out of utility approaches in our work, I think it is important that also the community have access to some of the interventions that bring back some small income into a household so that they are able to pay for some of the utilities, because that is the direction we are taking, to be able to sustain the response that we are putting together. Of course, the other aspects where we've really achieved a lot is through the mentorship programs, where we've worked closely with institutions like Makerere to create opportunities for female engineers into humanitarian work. We started this, and the ministry has also taken it up. As I speak, we have quite a number of young, fresh female engineers joining humanitarian work through creating that opportunity. I think that has also been successful in the work we are doing, and it is actually working very well. The integration, having an integrated approach of having engineers and public health practitioners, I think help us deliver a quality wash response, because as we deliver, we are able to deal with feedback on designs, and because we have the capacity in-house, engineers quickly adjust designs based on the feedback from the users, and then we're able to improve through some tweaking, consulting, improving, and consulting. That has really happened because of having that kind of arrangement of engineers. Yeah, basically that is what I can also add on that particular question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Waswa, Mr. Waswa from Mr. Maweje. Can you give him a good round of applause? He has mentioned so many areas where engineers have been used to help the NGO perform humanitarian projects for the benefit of society. And he has also mentioned about the integrated approach where we involve all the specialists, the environmentalists, the medical people, and the engineers, and of course the socialists and so on, so that projects can be successful and accepted within the community. And of course, he has also mentioned a very important thing about mentorship, and where especially the female engineers have been involved and helping the NGOs to improve on their work. And of course, the feedback from the users is very important. As engineers, whatever projects you do, you should get feedback from the users of your product. Are they satisfied with your product or not? So that is a very good take home for us as engineers. We should be able to involve our users of our products. So that can help us to improve on our designs and also the implementation of those projects. Thank you very much. Maybe I could just finalize with you, Mr. Maweje. There are many projects which have been carried out in this country, but where do you think these projects would have been done better if they had used the input of engineers?
Thank you so much. Just like I'd mentioned, and just like other speakers had mentioned, engineers are part and parcel of everything that we deliver on. Yeah? Even where we are sitting, without engineering contribution, wouldn't be comfortably seated here. So I want to respond by saying that across all sectors, we need to appreciate the importance that comes with an integrated approach of delivering on all these interventions. Yeah, but to be specific, I would really suggest that while delivering on irrigation systems as part of livelihoods, it is important that engineers are part and parcel of the design of the system itself, but also of its operation and maintenance. That is key. I see in other areas this is actually missing out, and if we tap on that opportunity, it would really be important that engineers are included for us to have quality results in that particular area. Then, of course, just like I said, all sectors and interventions require engineers' input at designing, implementation, and also supervision. In many cases, we've had projects that deliver on key wash infrastructure interventions without engineers. And they rely on contractors, and they forget that for us to have an effective contract management, for example, we must have had engineers who are able to design the BOQs, appropriate BOQs, designs, and also they are able to provide supervision and monitoring. And by doing that, we would actually realize quality assurance and also value for money. So in all our programming, I think it is important that we have engineers embedded in whatever we are doing. I've also seen projects in some settlements where tanks have collapsed, and we risked having actually protection issues, tanks falling on people, bursting, and then killing people in some areas. Why? Because engineers were not fully involved in designing. During implementation, the supervision was not well provided, and sometimes contractors are money-minded people. They tend to really look at profits than quality. Yeah? So, looking at that, using that experience, I think it is very, very important that throughout our programming, areas that need projects that have infrastructure development or establishment have engineers included. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for highlighting those areas where in any project we need to involve engineers. Those unfortunate instances where tanks have busted, and I'm sure they have caused the damages to property and maybe to people in some instances. Thank you very much. I'm going to my immediate panelist here from the UPDF.
Thank you very much, moderator. I want to start by saying this, that the forces are not different from the world. The only difference they have is a tailored training. But before you can have that tailored training, you have the basic disciplines from the rest of the world. What am I driving at is that other than this uniform that we put on, we train in the support disciplines of engineering, medicine, environment, social administration, And we also have the soft skills that can help us fit in the absence of the other communities. So by increasing awareness, training, and mentorship to the forces, and we also allow room for integration, that much as we have a second directive, a dedicated service to protect and preserve the boundaries of the country, we also have a duty to account to the community. So by involving the forces in other disciplines of government, especially engineering, we are bound to harvest the maximum. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lieutenant Engineer. I just want also to complete with you, maybe give you the last question from me. I know both the units, the UPDF and the police, you have engineering units or engineering brigades. I know you do a lot of engineering works within the forces and also helping other sectors of government. Maybe you could just give us, highlight some of the projects, a few projects UPDF brigade, engineering brigade have done something, maybe in the Ministry of Health, for example. And also that where the police engineering units have also done some projects to alleviate the vulnerable people in society.
Some time back, we had a landslide in Mount Elgon. That was Bududa. And the joint effort of extending infrastructure service and all the services that had got damaged was led by UPDF, and at the back was Uganda Police and Uganda Prisons. And currently we've had a pilot project of about 3,500 housing units in Bulambuli, and this is jointly done by the three forces, that is Uganda Post Defense Forces, Uganda Police, and Uganda Prisons. It is funded by Government of Uganda and Prime Minister's Office. UPDF is handling projects in the Ministry of Health. To be specific, a few hospitals, Kawolo, Gombe Hospital, Busolwe, and the recent lockdowns that happened, that is COVID, I don't want to mention it for its history. Government so wished to have oxygen plants in all the different hospitals, and UPDF took on that mantle. Uganda Police, entirely, Uganda Police have built up their headquarters in Naguru. You ought to have seen it. They have also put up housing units for police. About, I think they are now doing 6,000, and the projects are still continuing. We have also engaged in means of education. We are putting up schools in hard-to-reach areas. We are also working hand in hand with the cultural leaders. We have put up a huge, I think 7-kilometer fence for Karuzika, that is Toro Kingdom. And we are also in Hygia working on Nambole Stadium for its total rehabilitation.
Yeah, thank you. Can you give a big applause for that work? They are doing very good work in this country, and we need to appreciate the role they are playing. Very important. First of all, they are defending our boundaries, and also they are helping us in the engineering projects in this country. Thank you very much. To ensure that all public works such as roads are sustained and are resilient to overcome maybe the climate change and so on. So can you just highlight?
Okay, I'll answer this in two parts. First, I will say how we, as UNRWA, are handling disaster response. But I'll start by saying how can we utilize the pool of engineers and engineering competence in this country. And I say it comes down to governance, because every one of you here must be the converted. But before you were the converted, you probably didn't even know about humanitarian engineering and didn't know that people do PhDs in this business. So we had to get the governance led by Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers to say, hey, let's recognize that this is a challenge. Let's recognize that we have engineers right across the country in all sorts of areas, NGOs, government, private sector, and let's bring them together into a framework so that these engineers know that in addition to the work they're doing in their day jobs, they can also give part of their time to charity, either as volunteers or even being paid for it. And let's also use this governance to focus them. So I think how can we bring engineers to bear in the humanitarian sector? It's really about having governance structures and leadership. I know lots of engineers, and all of them are very good-hearted. They want to do something to build a better world. But they just need to be told, you know, this is what we're going to focus on, this is what will make a difference, and they're good to go. So it's a challenge to us as engineering leaders, as well as partnering institutions, to see that we give the engineers in the country an opportunity to serve their country, even in this humanitarian sphere. So back to UNRWA, and I'll just pick on two challenges. We face very many challenges of a humanitarian nature, but I'll just pick on floods and landslides, because these are very common. In the case of landslides, we know that there's landslide-prone areas. So if we're to think about the disaster preparedness matrix, which is what we broadly follow, you talk about the disaster, and then you talk about how you're going to respond to it, how do you recover, and then the mitigation and the preparedness. So in no particular order, for instance, the preparedness, we know that the country can be roughly zoned into, say, the southwest, the west, the east, and the northeast. Those are landslide-prone areas. So we know that the nature of the geology is that given certain factors, you're going to get landslides. So we prepare ourselves. It influences things like the way we design our infrastructure in those areas. You try to integrate as much resilience as you can within cost. Because if you build resilience, we can't design for full resilience, but nobody's going to fund that kind of infrastructure. So there is a balance between what we know the nation can afford and then what type of resilience is needed. But we try to factor that in so that we avert landslides to the best of our ability. And then we operate through 23 stations that are spread around the country. So we also see that we are close to the ground. In all these areas, we have UNRWA stations, which then have the capability to respond immediately, either directly or through our construction unit in UNRWA, or through force account, or through local contractors. We have various mechanisms depending on the type of disaster. And so we try to ensure that when these disasters do occur, because they will occur, we're not the ones who control nature, we can respond and restore connectivity within at least 3 or so days, depending on the type of disaster, so that other elements of the humanitarian effort can go in. So I think generally we do it within 24 hours, but there are certain cases like when you get a landslide sweeping away a road. That's going to take slightly longer, a few days. So that's one. But then we also try to partner, and here I commend the Office of the Prime Minister for spearheading a whole-of-government approach. Because, for instance, to some of these challenges, you will find that if you're familiar with landslides, a landslide can actually originate 5 kilometers away from your infrastructure, even 10 kilometers. That is the source. And those sources tend to be where you're getting unsustainable land use practice, where you have degradation, you have deforestation, poor cultivation methods. And so that then we're dealing in the areas around Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Gender, and there's so many other factors involved. And so the Prime Minister has been very competent at trying to bring together a whole-of-government approach. UNRWA has been very much in compliance to that whenever we're called. Our own patron has also been spearheading that. So UNRWA participates greatly in the whole-of-government approach because we believe that these are dirty problems. It's not one institution that's going to handle them. So you'll often hear me talk about partnership. Humanitarian issues by nature demand partnership. We need to have holistic solutions. The second one, which is very common these days, is flooding. It could be flash flooding, it could be flooding that builds up. Recently, we know that the waters of Lake Victoria and Kyoga and Albert, as well as River Nile and the rest, they rose to levels that have never been recorded before. This had to do with sustained rains over a period of, I think, 1 or 2 years. And so what happened in the case of UNRWA? In the case of UNRWA, of course, these things precipitate landslides, but I've already talked about that. But then you also have infrastructure, in certain cases, being submerged. A whole road just disappears underwater. So how do we respond as UNRWA? First of all, we will do the immediate response. In some cases, we actually had to now bring in ferries and boats. We had to work with local communities or just buy boats and put them there so that communities are connected, And then when we come to now rebuilding, then these are roads where you have to have, you raise them so that they're now above the new water level. At no point before had water gone that high. But now that it is there and it subsides, you know that there is that possibility that it can come back. So we build these things to be more resilient. Similar case with, say, the ferries. Some of you will be familiar that some of your ferry routes were cut off because the waters around, say, Lake Kyoga rose, and so the ferry landings are submerged. So how do we respond? First thing we do is ensure that there is connectivity. It's going to be longer, but there's got to be an alternative route because life must go on. And then we built temporary ferry landings at a higher elevation so that as soon as possible we can restore that connectivity so people can go from one place to the other. Because sometimes an alternative route is going to take you multiple hours and people cannot afford the transportation costs. And then the more permanent solution is now we rebuild permanent ferry landings at the higher elevation. So that when the water levels recede, we could use the lower, what has always been existing as a ferry landing, and should they in future go up again, we now have ferry landings at a higher level. So that's building in some sense of resilience. We've got to respond. Climate change is driven by factors that are external to low and middle income countries in general, but the consequences are felt the most by us. So those are just some simple examples. I could go into further detail, but those I would be happy to discuss with any of you who's interested. So we operate under the mandate of the minister, and we are the implementing arm. So there are other agencies under the same institution, like CAA and then Road Fund and the rest. So In terms of preparedness, one of the things we have done, and that really sits in my docket, which is I head the Department of Research and Development, is to try and understand the beast that we face. Because this is a new challenge, and we cannot address new challenges in the same way we've addressed old problems. So that's one of the things which we've been doing. We've been doing a lot of work, partnering especially with colleagues in South Africa and the United Kingdom and the United States to see what are best practices in this area of responding to climate change related issues. The second thing is to strengthen our capacity. So in the wisdom of His Excellency, the President, he decided that there should be strengthening of capabilities within the UNRWA as well as the Ministry of Works and the districts. So we have equipment. We have new equipment. It's functioning very, very well. And so we are better able to respond to emergencies, should they exist. We can quickly respond. We've got the capacity within us to ensure connectivity. Because at the end of the day, what we want is to ensure people can move from A to B. A flooding emergency doesn't only affect us. It affects schools, it affects hospitals, it affects houses, it affects people's fields, but it requires connectivity to be able to find, for the rest of the actors, to be able to provide their interventions. So that's one of the things, that's the core thing which we've been doing. It's in ensuring that we're prepared, ensuring that we are close to the ground through our 23 stations so we can respond immediately, as well as having a good understanding of what to expect. So for instance, when we get the Uganda Meteorological Authority puts out 3-month, you call them forecasts, quarterly forecasts. We actively look for those quarterly forecasts from Uganda Meteorological Authority. And we can already know that we expect this to be happening in this kind of region. So if necessary, deploy some equipment from other parts of the country to strengthen up these particular stations, because we anticipate that there is a risk that something could happen in those areas. So those are some of the things which we do.
Yeah, thank you. As we have informed us, we know you're working with some partners in other countries to develop your capacity, and they also have equipment in order for you to respond quickly. It is good for us to know that we have the right people to help us in case of these emergencies, to open up the roads which have been swept by the floods. They will respond within, I think, a few minutes. They will be there because they already have capacity. Thank you very much. And the audience, can you give him a rousing applause? Yeah. Let me go to the academia, the representative from Makerere University. Yes, the biggest challenge in aligning our working styles, standards, and methodologies between engineers and NGOs.
Thank you, Chair. This is a very nice question. Working with NGOs and engineers. One, of course, from the training that the engineers get academically is a little bit rigid in terms of standards, what method you should use and everything. And probably the NGOs wouldn't understand this. So the main challenge would be, first of all, the communication. How would you communicate your standard? In simple terms, because there are certain standards, some of them are in figures that I need this so much area per person, and the person just wants to sleep, for example, and you're telling him area per person, or they need this much water, you need to plan for this much water per person, you need to plan for this. So typically there are so many engineering standards on almost everything. How do you communicate that to the NGO so that they understand it? Because somebody will tell you, just put up this structure, I have people to stay here. But the engineer, first of all, needs to know how many people are you planning for. But the NGO person doesn't understand why you need to know the number of people you're planning for, because there are so many other factors that will come along if you need to plan for the sanitation. How big should the container going to hold that be? and all these factors that the engineer is taking into consideration, they're not really able to probably communicate them all at once to the NGO, and maybe the NGO doesn't appreciate the use of some of these standards, because at the end of the day, probably they may only appreciate that later when everything seems to be seamlessly working. However, if they don't understand that, then it will be a challenge. So communication, so that the NGO appreciates what kind of information you are collecting from them, because sometimes it appears as if the engineers are asking a lot of information, yet this information is feeding into the design you have to make. Because sometimes an engineer knows that, okay, if this room is, for example, is to hold 100 people, I need this ceiling to be at this height. And somebody may not appreciate it. For as long as it doesn't hit my head when I enter the room, it's okay. So such things that the engineers consider while they are designing whatever the solution is, they are very important, but probably the NGOs may not really appreciate some of those. Then the other one is appreciation of resources, because probably the NGO may have certain resources that is offering the engineer to implement. So some of these resources may be of different type and different qualities compared to what the engineer already knows. So of course, the engineer has to now customize their design based on what is available. And from what is available, you make a favorable design that will meet the needs of that community, so that at the end of the day, this design is being efficiently used at a very good, friendly cost, so that then we don't have issues of not providing a solution at all, because whatever resources you have, they are not meeting the standards that the engineer was expecting. Then, of course, there are these issues of the available materials, because sometimes maybe I don't have an iron bar to construct the structure, or I don't have this chemical to treat the available water. So how do I fit within? Can I introduce new solutions? Can I communicate to the NGO things I can do? Maybe, for example, for the water, maybe I collect the water and maybe boil it to kill the germs. So such things, when you are being innovative in a way to try to ensure that whatever you have around you, you can utilize it to offer a solution. Because remember, this is an emergency scenario whereby the people that you are providing the service for, they are not really thinking in a straight manner, and the engineer has to come in to really put bits and pieces together to offer a solution. And in so doing, you need to work hand in hand with the available materials, the available resources that have been offered, so that you offer a solution that betters the lives of those that are using them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have mentioned that the main challenges is, of course, communication. You need to communicate to the NGOs to accept the standards engineers will request them to abide by. And of course, the availability or inavailability of materials. And then, as engineers, you provide innovative solutions. Those are very good. Maybe my last question to you may not be the last, but in this round of questions, there are many opportunities to use engineering skills to improve the conditions for marginalized communities in our country. Do you think our current engineering education curriculum imparts such skills to our graduate engineers?
The current curriculum, I think curriculum is changing over time. Curriculum is not constant, and even at universities, for example, Makerere University, we are continuously reviewing curriculum to meet the needs and demands of society. An example, one of the opportunities I can see is that innovation. Innovation is key. You saw this especially during the previous COVID pandemic that we've been going through. Innovation, how can we work within what we have? I have a colleague at the university who invented a mask decontaminator, because we had to use masks almost 24/7. And I mean, people had masks to be washed and everything, but the period between when you're washing your mask and when you'll use it could be long, and you want to put on another mask immediately. So there was an option of these other small masks that you take it through a decontaminator, and within 1-2 minutes, you can reuse your mask, because when you use a mask, it gets contaminated. So with a decontaminator, within 1 minute, pass through your mask through a decontaminator, you can reuse it. So innovation is key, and it's a very important opportunity here that we need to harness, that we need to continuously innovate, because the challenges, the problems, they keep evolving. And with the evolving nature of our challenges, we need to innovate to try to build onto a solution. And another approach the university is also taking is a problem-based learning approach, whereby they come to the community, they work hand in hand with the community or the refugees that are experiencing the problem. Currently, we have a project whereby we are training refugees how to put a communication network. You leave the community, manage the communication network. So when you work hand in hand in a problem-based kind of learning, then you have those soft skills of learning. What does the community expect? Because a lot of information is contained within the community. Because there are those scenarios when the community will tell you, never do this and this in this community because it could lead to a certain problem. So the engineer can harness some of that information from the community, combine it with their technological know-how, and try to bring up a solution that has been, that has put into consideration what the problem is within the community, and in so doing, they try to present a solution that is acceptable to all people that are going to use this solution.
As we come to the close, can you give my panelists, our panelists, for having done wonderful work? And just maybe about 5 minutes, I want to open it to the participants. You may have questions, burning questions to these panelists, these experts in these areas. I give maybe just, if you can be allowed, 5 minutes for the panel, for the audience to ask the panelists. And maybe when you're asking a question, mention your name, the organization you're working in, and the question to the person you are directing that question.
I'm very interested, very interesting discussion, so thank you very much to all the panelists. I just wanted to ask a question on the last remark from David, because you mentioned how important it is for the universities to be connected with different communities in order to understand their needs and how they can better respond to them. So my question is, you mentioned something about the challenges, but are the universities and the academia in general willing to have a more close relationship with the communities? And if so, how do you foresee that to be structured in future? Because it's something that on our side with the higher education partnerships in Sub-Saharan Africa, we would be very interested to explore a little bit more.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd really like to appreciate our panelists. They have really given a lot of information that at least we have had to learn from. My name is Engineer Ann Nankanja Jita. I'm the chairperson of the Ginger branch, UIPE, and I work with ESCOM Uganda Limited. First of all, I'd like to especially appreciate, not all of you, but specifically the team, UPDF and UNRWA. The only challenge I have with you people is you never communicate. I'll give an example. At the dam, we had a scenario of the island that came and docked at the dam. That was at the height of COVID, when every hospital is full and electricity is really, really paramount. So at first when we saw that happen, we were not sure what we could do. Then we contacted, I think it was it must have been the minister. Then somehow UPDF came in, UNRWA came in. They came in very, very handy. How the connectivity was done, no one knows. Within 1 day, I think we had about 10 excavators on site, 20 trucks driven by UPDF guys, and the excavators were all from UNRWA. We've always looked for excavators. It's very hard to get an excavator. But somehow, in 1 day, all those were available. So I was trying to look at how connected they are and how fast they can move. Remember, this was COVID. There is lockdown. You barely see any vehicle on the road apart from maybe Umeme, whatever those other you only hear ambulances. Those are only things you would see. But somehow they came in. So that, to me, I look at it as a humanitarian activity, which came in so handy, and then you are well connected. but it's not well communicated to the communities that when you get a challenge, we are always available. Who knew that UPDF engineers would immediately come to beef up the ones at the dam? Because yes, we're there, we're the engineers, we know what to do, but there was no equipment. We never use earth-moving equipment. We never use those, we never have those 20 trucks. They are never available, and we never need them anyway. However, at this point in time, there's really equipment that we actually needed. But what impressed me is the speed at which they arrived at. And then at least we managed, and then the support. They stayed with us throughout all those times, working day and night, until we managed to get back. At least the plant, one of the plant was totally down for a whole week. A whole week is too much when you need electricity, but at least we managed to get it up and running within a week. If it was not for UPDF and UNRWA, that thing would have taken about a month to get back. So I'd really like to appreciate them. And please communicate to the community that you're always available for us, not only for government duties. ESCOM is a private company that is operating on behalf of UEGCL, but you came in to support. Thank you very much.
From Afford, from Kasese. And I think our district is one of the districts that is getting disasters, and I'm very happy that I've been part of this. And I want to put in and ask my members, the engineers, as NGOs, we have always reached the people when there's these disasters. And in most cases, when we reach the districts or the municipals, like we need help from the engineers, we want to first reach them and they sensitize the community about what the NGOs are going to do for them. They are always slow at reaching the communities. And you know, when it comes to NGOs, for us, we want results. We want to see something moving on so that we give feedback to our sponsors. So we've always gotten this problem. Like I have worked in a project of tree planting, climate resilience. And you see, when you're going to plant trees along the road, you're supposed to first ask the engineer where the road is supposed to reach. But then you reach a point of implementing, you're reaching the municipal, but these people are not coming out to talk to the community, or they're not even coming out to come and guide you. So we don't know, to you in the head offices, what should we do as NGOs when we are going to implement these projects and we are really reaching out to the people in the local leadership? Thank you.
I'm by names of Chirangwa Adriane, a plumber engineer. My question will go to UNRWA. You have invited investors in the system, let's say road construction. Those people came and did the bypass, the northern bypass. But let's say a plumbing sector was not given a Ugandan engineer, at least to advise. When you go to the 3 road tolls we have here in Uganda, they have made them their way, not our way. Whereby, when you look at the toilets, because I've gone there for repairs, but the toilets are made their way. Because as the toilets are constructed, they have got sensors. A Ugandan engineer was not given a chance, at least to advise on how those things should be done. They have done the plumbing, which is not on a Ugandan standard. That now when you go to, let's say, Bosega Road Toll, those toilets are not working. People come, pause a bit, there is a parking, and before they go, they have to ease themselves to continue with the way. You reach at the toilet, it is not working. Now, how do you expect someone to leave a toilet and continue where there is no toilet? Because how you did it, it is not okay. On my side, I beg UNRWA to give a chance to Ugandan engineers also to participate. Thank you.
Are the Ugandan higher education institutions ready to work with the community? And if they are going to work with the community, how? The quick answer is, first of all, yes. That yes, the education institutions are working closely with the community. And like my colleague mentioned, how can we achieve these partnerships? Partnerships not only for resources, but also partnership with the community. Because in many cases, just like one person mentioned, government is viewed from the other side and the people on this side. So universities are also viewed to be there and the community here, and they don't think that they can in any way benefit from the university. Yet the university is training their people and everything to deliver them resources. So we ought to partner with the communities. Let the community not fear the university. Gone are the days when, for example, our parents used to fear going to the university, but now we at least know one or two people who are working, who have studied from the university, and they know the working procedures of the university. And the university is actually innovating solutions for the community. So let there be partnerships together with the community to see, let the community be able to bring their problems to the university, and the university will try to address those. So using those partnerships, we shall ensure that the university goes to the community and also the community comes to the university for solution. Of course, this requires a lot of sensitization of what the university can deliver. And also the community to know that the university can deliver solutions to them in a way they may not be to their expectations, but at least we can work together to deliver the solution of that. Thank you.
Okay, I note I probably have about a minute to answer this, so I will answer as quickly as I can. Engineer Ann, yes, thank you for commending the speed with which we were able to be there. This is all tribute to the effectiveness of the office of the Prime Minister, because that effort, the entire flood response, both in 2018, 2020, and I believe 2022, were coordinated by the Office of the Prime Minister. So immediately, the Office of the Prime Minister called together all government agencies. We sat down, we came up with plans, immediate, short-term, medium-term, long-term. And part of the immediate interventions in that case, because that is a strategically important piece of infrastructure, was for UPDF to partner with UNRWA, Ministry of Works, and Ministry of Agriculture. So Ministry of Agriculture were also involved, as well as Ministry of Water, to get rid of that, so that that important piece of infrastructure doesn't topple, because there was a risk that that dam could fail. So that is a tribute to the effectiveness of government working as a unit. In terms of communication, we hear you, in terms yourself as well as Adrian, that is communication. We do have a fully fledged PCA office whose mandate is communication. So we do have, we're very active on our website and Twitter, but at the end of the day, communication is a two-way. So there's only so much information that we can send out, but if you leave it to us to determine what information we think you need, we're going to do our very best, but it might not be what you want. So if you could also proactively come to us and tell us, would like to have this kind of information. Typically, if we provide information to one person, then we know that, yes, there's probably a community who need this kind of information. Then we now start sending it out. So I will take this information and pass it to our teams, and we continue to improve. But communication is a two-way stream. The second, now specific to Adrian, you're talking about Ugandan individuals. There are several government frameworks that actually deal with supporting the Uganda construction industry. There is the Bubu policy. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bubu policy. There is the reservation scheme. This is under PPDA. I must say UNRWA was the first institution to actually meet the obligations of that reservation scheme. We very, very quickly ring-fenced 30% of projects to then go to Ugandan contractors. I must say, Adrian, talk to your friends and tell them to also come to the table. Because that has actually led to, in certain cases, some delays on government projects. Because when the local contractors are given this work and they can't step up to the plate, then that work is given to them. So you see, it then leads to delays in government programs. We work very, very closely with your lead organization, UNAPSEC, as well as other relevant industry bodies like Uipe, that's for instance why the executive director is here, and many other organizations to work with the local contractors to see where possible, where can we build capacity. And we support Ugandans right across. My colleagues in the UPDF, we work closely together because they have an engineering brigade which is rapidly building capacity. And so we work together with them. So if you feel there's another avenue that we could work together to build stronger partnership, please come to us. We've been coming to you in the past and looking for who to talk to. It would be such a pleasure if you now can be the ones to come to us. Thank you.
There was one written question here. Do we have running programs for installing sensors in the communities that have been found to be vulnerable? I think these programs because then they become widespread and they require a lot of resources. Currently, they have been at prototype stage with small projects with students and the like at the university, and they would like to be rolled out. And of course, then it requires a lot because then we need those sensors connected to communication infrastructure, then they relay the information and it's collected together. So they are there at a smaller level, but maybe with partnerships with bigger people who can provide resources to do this, we can roll them out into the affected areas. Thank you.
ESCOM, I want to put out 4 functions of UPDF. These can be got elsewhere on the website, but just for emphasis, one of the functions of UPDF is to preserve and defend the sovereignty and interior integrity of Uganda, to cooperate, this is key, to cooperate with civilian authority in emergency situations in cases of natural disaster. To cooperate with civilian authority. 3, to foster harmony and understanding between the defense forces. That is purely, 1 and 3 are purely militaristic. Then 4, to engage in productive activities for the development of Uganda. So feel free at any time. You can write through, if you observe the protocol, you'll always get our quick response on the click.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you give the panelists a very big applause for wonderful work? And I hand over the mic to Madam MC. Thank you very much, participants, for your participation in this activity.
Okay, at this juncture, I want to say thank you. I think one of the key things we have to take note of is that we've learned that in engineering, when you're dealing with engineering and the humanitarian world, you must have both the technical and then the soft skills. But the soft skills come in handy. And one thing in my professional life which I managed to understand is that of all the engineering I learned, I noticed that I only apply 30% of the technical and 70% is the soft skills, which are mostly not taught in class, but you keep learning as you go along the professional path. So thank you very much for sharing with us. While I was growing up, I used to see the men in uniform, and as soon as I would see them, I would run away. Surely I used to run. But I'm glad today that we can sit in the same table and we share. And I'm also glad to learn that they are part of the response team in times of emergency. Thank you very much for being part of us. Lieutenant Engineer Shikomeko, please send our regards and gratitude to the top commander. Yes, I really don't. When you start talking about the ranks, I can't really. It's called a general, major general. General, yes, okay, please. Send them our regards and we appreciate you for cooperating with us. and supporting us in many of our projects and with the community. Recently, I had to engage with them, and they freely offered us land for putting up some infrastructure to supply the community in Uipe for free.
Honorable Minister, we are very, very glad to have you this morning for our humanitarian skills networking event, which brings together the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, our strategic partners, the Royal Academy of Engineering, UK, represented by the program manager, who we shall introduce to you shortly, and the Redr-Uk, also our strategic partners from the UK, together with the academia and different government agencies, as well as members from the NGO world. Honorable Minister, as you know, every organization has conventional about three aspects. It has the people, it has the profits, and it also must look at the planet. So as engineers, we are not only focusing on the hardware aspect of our contribution, but also we are looking at the people. And that is where the aspect of humanitarian skills come in. Through the support jointly from the Redr and the Royal Academy of Engineering, we have had training in the last year of over 20 engineers in the country on humanitarian skills. And this year into next year, we have 5 cohorts, each one of about 20 or plus participants who are also going to be skilled in the area of humanitarian skills engineering. This is being facilitated by Redr-Uk, Makerere University through the College of Engineering, Design, Art and Technology, and Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, the host organization. This morning, Honorable Minister, we have had very fruitful engagements. We have had insights from Redr-Uk. The program manager has given us good insights into the agenda and their direction in as far as developing humanitarian skills is concerned. We also had great insights from the Royal Academy of Engineering program manager, who gave us an insight into the wide opportunities presented by the academy in areas of innovations, in areas of climate change, and in areas of resilient infrastructure. We also had a very vibrant panel discussion moderated by our past president, Engineer Vincent Ocho, which had membership from the Uganda People's Defense Forces, from Oxfam, from the academia, Makerere University again, Cedat, from UNRWA, and it centered around providing insights and experiences related to participation of engineers in humanitarian situations, to restore livelihoods, and to ensure that we have we assure human dignity in the face of disaster. Honorable Minister, we are aware that this is the sector which you head as the Minister of Relief and Disaster Preparedness, and we know that you are very passionate about the contribution engineers make in this country, not only as the sector minister, but also as our patron. We therefore cannot thank you enough that you have spared sufficient time out of your busy schedule to come and give us the insights at that strategic level that you can be able to tap into your wisdom. Honorable Minister, allow me to take this singular honor and opportunity to invite you to speak to us. Thank you. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, our guests from the UK who have come to share with us their views and experiences. Fellow engineers, I address you with a lot of happiness because here I feel at home. Because here is an institution where we handle and tackle actual challenges, physical challenges that affect humanity and human lives. Engineering is all engineering is all about improving our work, increasing our efficiency and effectiveness, and modernizing approach with time as to perfect our method of work. So that is the crux of engineering. In fact, there is no civilization without engineering. There is no civilization without engineering. Because engineering dictates the lives of our human beings, of people. That is their method of work, the method, the technology around which they operate on, and that also shapes their minds, because those technologies, if they are used to certain, you can compare the different generations. If you look back from the primitive times of life, which has evolved over the period of time, these evolutions of human life are all around technology improvement and changes in technology and betterment of approach to solving problems, physical problems, and so forth. And now also biological problems in areas of agriculture, areas of medicine, etc. It's all about, those are all other forms of engineering, because we're engineering the cells and trying to see how better they can relate and sometimes force their behavior to follow what the human being wants and so forth. Like developing colonel coffee, you get another branch, fix it or cut a branch from there, and the one which is growing may be a poorer brand, you chop it off and then fix the better brand on top of it. Meanwhile, the roots are the one for the bad brand, but they operate better on that soil. But then the one you put on top, which improves the quality of fruits and the rest of it, are the better brand, which may not ordinarily survive if you plant it directly, and so forth. All these are all manipulations of technology, and engineering is one part of them. So really, I'm really delighted and happy that we are discussing engineering with respect to humanity, to service to humanity. As I mentioned earlier, that engineering, particularly the technologies applied by engineers, is work, is life, is work, make work easier to do, and improve on the efficiency by which we do our work, and most often effectiveness, and also improve on the standards of our lives, the way we live. So all those are all generated by the engineering minds and efforts. So most often there is no engineering for me which is not humanitarian. Even the military science, military technologies, these are all for humanity, to protect human beings from aggression of some kind. I mean, you can, if you are better armed, you have a short, for example, you have a gun, and you walk in the bush, a lion now comes to attack you. Easily, you can use a gun easily to silence it, and that itself is useful, useful application of military science, technology, etc., etc. And what actually we need to improve on, is the human mind. The human mind is slow. They are developing much in a slower pace comparing to technological growth, technological development. Engineering is growing faster. The technology, science is growing faster than the human brains. Science is growing faster than the human brain. So we have remained primitive mentally as compared to engineering per se. Because the tools, the engineering tools that are supposed to be useful to protect human beings and to generate better life and so forth, because of the backward political minds, the backward minds also breed backward politics of greed and destruction. And those bad politics of greed and destructions sometimes misuse the technology that we should otherwise have used it for humanity to destroy others. And that's what's going on. If you look at any war today in the world, I don't want to mention any, it's all arising from greed and lagging mindset development of humanity, whereby we make irrational decisions because we haven't matured at the level of that technology. I don't know whether you, because I read a bit of philosophy in my life, I know everything, I know a lot about evolution of mankind and the brains and the mindset, human behavior, etc. That's what we equate, we call it social sciences and so on. But on the other hand, technological innovations and development have moved faster, and therefore we don't know how to use it because of the lag. We are lagging behind the technology. That's the little that I can say. So I remember one time when we used to design, because I specialize in dams and hydraulic structures. When I was doing my postgraduate, we used to design this nuclear reactor cooling vessel, a huge vessel. And when we're designing that, we're designing it to make sure that it contains whatever that reaction, nuclear reactor, so that it doesn't again affect the neighborhood. And when we are doing that, then at the end, we have to, our university made us swear that whatever technology we are going to apply or develop should be for the betterment of humanity. It was as an oath we had to take. We had to carry out such a design. Because these are all related with the structures, different forms of structures. So really, to me, all engineering are for humanity. All engineering and technological developments are for humanity. It's except that technology is developed faster than the human mind. And our minds, how can we develop our minds better? Is the education system that we should reform. In my view, we should reform our education system. Because now, for me, having known how the system we have passed through here, when you go to Makerere and say to study engineering, of course that is the cream. Or you go and study medicine, that's the cream of biological sciences. And then the others fall in. But when you are studying those sciences, then you are glued on it without really social awareness. The social awareness, socio-economic awareness. And that should be introduced at the university level. Even at secondary school level, you should now start teaching children some social awareness, how we relate, and the factors that drive human beings and so forth, so that we know how to balance the social life to the technological life. Some basic subject philosophies should be taught. Basic philosophies. Simplify it. You don't go into the jargons. Like what my friend who is operating at State House, Mr. Mafabi, writes. He needs to write a lot of those jargons. But me, when I study him, I read him, I think also he needs orientation. You can have a lot of jargons, but you can just recite it as a parrot to impress others. But you are not in it. You must be in it. So basic philosophy should be taught, and political science. And so that our people get to appreciate human relations with respect to our lives. Irrespective of what you are going to do, whether you are going to be an engineer, you are going to do it in your mindset, you now have an entrenched mind of doing better for humanity, other than doing it for other purposes, maybe mainly money. And money, sometimes you cut corners, buildings collapse, and so on, that kind of stuff. But if you are doing it for humanity, you put all your best to make sure that you acquire. I think some of those areas we need to improve on. I've already mentioned this even in government, in our own cabinet, I talked about it, that we need to reform our education system. The colonial education which was left here, which we are still maintaining, has now outlived its purpose. Now, when I bring up an engineer, I want the engineer to know, beyond that equations and science, whatever, calculation, design, might know exactly his environment. What is the purpose of those designs he's doing? What are the purpose? How is it going to relate to other humanities, other human beings? Because not everybody can read engineering, because some may not be very good in mathematics and physics and so on. Those are the core subjects. Some may be better in reciting, telling stories, history, and so on, or you do things like law, and so on, which are a different line altogether. But even those who are doing law and so on should know the purpose of their practice for the humanity. Everything must be for humanity. That must be the way to go. Not for self or for some egoistic motive and so forth. And you get, sometimes I get puzzled, even professionals, engineers and so on, and others. When it comes to some critical issues in social relations and decisions are to be made, some take simplistic mind of relating issues to it, to some unprincipled position, like, some ethnic grouping, maybe this is thinking like this because it's like that. There's nothing like that. Because it's come from so and so, therefore that's the mind. No. Every human being has a reason for certain behaviors, and those reasons has to be studied. understanding of human mind and human behavior, and therefore appreciating their decisions. For me, if somebody come with a very outrageous mind and radical views, I only tend to advise that we discuss, other than rubbishing that person. You don't do that. You just don't rubbish, because the background may be different, and therefore may not appreciate how things should have moved. And so, and those tools should also be possessed by engineers. Engineers must possess the tools of dealing with the human being, how to deal with other human beings. I remember when I was much younger, when I was made managing director of National Water in 1983, that is nearly 40 years ago. The one who was there before me, I was chief engineer there. I was working in the field. I didn't bother about management. But every week there would be strike. The workers were always striking against management. Every week there was strike. Simply because of lack of that kind of mindset, which would have really handled the problem differently, and there would have been no need of strike. So when they made me managing director, the first thing I did was assemble the union leaders, all those workers leaders. And I told them there is no need of strike, because I am also an employee like you. We are all employees. You are employed in the rightful place. I'm also not employed here, like you. Although you call me managing director, but yes, I'm an employee. Now, as an employee, like you are, as my fellow employees, what is our desire? Can we plan it together with you? Oh, they say, oh, our salaries are very small, we cannot even find enough people. They say, okay, that's all our problem. All of us are in it. This and that, we don't have proper attire for work. What do we do? They say, yes, we are all in it, like that. So when we counted the problems, we realized that it is all our common problem. So what is the solution? I told them, don't strike, let us now join hands and work together and change the situation, work hard and produce so that we earn more. Then we can be able to pay ourselves better and move. So that way I rallied the entire striking groups who were previously striking. They became my ally. Now we say, now we are going to face them. We are going to face them by working together and producing results. And those who try to cut corners, they were the ones who would be disciplining them. Because we had people who go around reading meters, stealing money from customers. So they were the one now dealing with those. They said, now we are supposed to be together. You cannot take it for yourself. We are collective. You know, it became, they turned the water around, turned the institution around. And at the end, in another 2-3 years, within another 2-3 years, we were somewhere else. We were paying ourselves better salaries than even Uipe, railways, which other institutions, and the workers were satisfied. And we bought them all good uniforms, and everybody had a sense of belonging to the institution. You see, they put me there. I went there as an engineer, but then now I evoked the knowledge I have about human relations and social education that I had in philosophy, political science. I realized the human mind, where they are flowing. And those kind of knowledge are very important, even for us technicians, technical people, so that you relate with other human beings to implement what you want done, etc. Sorry, I talked at length. I'm sorry, Mr. President. I think I wasted a lot of time here. So engineering practices, by and large, are all humanitarian. All humanitarian. Except that the minds of those applying those technologies, particularly political minds, have to be addressed. Have to be addressed. And how do we address it? It's too late to teach an old man like me now a new tricks. It's only the young people now, we have to bring them up. We have to see that our education system gives them that tool, additional tool, other than technology, knowing only engineering, design, whatnot, but they must also be social human beings, knowing the other aspect, so that they relate better with other fellow human beings. That's what I would recommend. And we are trying now to engage our institution. I'm trying to link them up. We are linking with the Office of the President, with the Minister of Presidency, to see that we influence the direction of how things are going to move in sciences. If we can do that, the better. For me, I'm on my way to retirement. In just about a few more years, about 3-4 years, I'll be out. And I'll be very happy because I will have done my part. But otherwise, I really appreciate Mr. President. And I appreciate the young people who are in charge now of our institution. They are very vibrant and full of energy. And I would wish that all their efforts are recognized. And we are going to work together to push that up so that we get better recognition and other different or new technologies that might be improved by you should be recorded and patented so that you own, like particularly those who do electrical engineering or those who are in the computer science and so on. They produce a lot of software, new software, to address particular problems. And those softwares are there, taken advantage of by MTN or those other institutions. Without these scientists who have developed them benefiting much from it. So, like those we really want to overcome it. We must overcome it. They must also benefit from it, benefit from what their creation, their innovation, and so forth. So with those few remarks, I think let me end here. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I thank my colleague engineers.
Science is developing at a faster pace than the human mind, but also we need to reform our education system to enable us to learn how to live in an integrated society as engineers. And at this moment, I would like to introduce to you our partners, Madame Merina from the Royal Academy of Engineering. You could wave so the Honorable Minister can know you. She's right there. And Madame Kati from the Redr-Uk. You could, yeah. Thank you very much. And the representative from the College of Engineering, Design, Art and Technology, Makerere University, Dr. Waswa, representing the principal. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, at this moment, given your short schedule, with indulgence of Kati, I don't know whether you intend to have the Honorable Minister participate in the launch of the grants, or we could take a group photo and you could advise us. The group photo. Right. So I request ES and the Secretariat to arrange for us a group photo. But in the meantime, I would like to request past President, Engineer Vincent Ocho, to give a vote of thanks for the Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Our patron and Minister in charge of disaster in this country, we have had a partnership with the Royal Academy of Engineering UK and Redr-Uk in training our engineers on humanitarian skills engineering so that they can be able to help us in these areas. But you know the country is prone to disasters, and this is in your docket. So we have equipped our engineers, about 160 who have been trained. We have had trainings which we did in the 2020 and the 2021, and we have trained many of our engineers. And this is part of the engineers who have been trained in that. And in this congregation here also have NGOs who deal in humanitarian areas. So we have tried to bring them together so that we can connect our engineers to assist them when they're doing helping communities who are vulnerable to these disasters. We thank you very much, our minister and patron for the institution, for guiding us in these areas. And you have seen we have moved far. We are making partnerships with our local NGOs and also international NGOs like the Redr-Uk who are helping us in this area. We thank you very much for taking your very busy schedule to come and be with us today and share with us your experiences in this area so that we, the young people and the engineers and the NGOs, can be able to take it up and help our communities. We thank you very much for that.
Sorry to have come back. I'm sorry. I just wanted, because now I forgot when I was talking generalities, that I'm in charge of disaster management. Disaster here is occasioned by the global warming and the changing climate, which everybody is aware of. Now, what we have to do, currently, I lack scientists. I lack engineers in my department. They are not there. I've got plenty of humanities, but the scientists are not there. I want you people to help me, the engineers, particularly the Makerere University, would help us come up with a design, technological approach, design and approach to how we can mitigate the impact of these disasters now affecting our communities. The drought, the Nino when it comes, landslides, and so forth, and so forth. And areas like Palisa, area like this in Eastern, where now all the forests have been destroyed and the land is plain and open. So when open ground like that, the wind can pick a speed which you cannot imagine. Sweeps all the roofs of the houses and so on. Our people are left outside, sleeping out. On all those are some of the challenges that we have. Through my initiative, we worked out and produced hazard maps. What is hazard maps here? Hazard maps here has been identifying which parts of the country. We have produced maps which indicate which part of the country where you live. You could easily get landslide and destruction. You could easily get flood and so on. Those maps are there, district by district, and the whole national map. And that was the far I could go when I borrowed some few technical minds and we sat together and we developed. But beyond that now, I need help from our engineers to come up with to design the resilience to those climatic conditions. I've already challenged agriculture to come up with a quick maturing crops, particularly cereals, which can take 2 months, 2.5 months, provided it's not GMO. Should not be GMO. For places like Karamoja, where the rainfall period is short, and there's drought and so forth. So if I can get some, like they used to do these projects at the Faculty of Technology, where I was a lecturer there before, and we used to do a lot of technical work there, designing this and that. I used to help railways, water, and so on. But now, please help us come up and we shall design and see if I can work out some resources to support and boost your research on that. And we see if we can come up with something which we can document. Thank you very much.
science in telecommunication engineering. There's been a lot to learn and a lot to discover this morning and early afternoon. One of the take-homes I have is the kind of engagement and kind of participation as the engineer and someone who is in the engineering space in relation to improving our societies, improving our community. And Uganda is an LDC and there's a lot of opportunities. Us being an LDC gives us a very, very big space for us to carry out the innovations and come up with better ideas of how to improve ourselves and our communities. I've been challenged by the upcoming micro grant, and I believe I'll push in my application, and I do believe that the kind of society we want to have, the kind of environment we need to have in Uganda and in this challenging world where we have a lot of disasters, a lot of uncertainties that are rising every day, and now are opportunities for us as the engineers to take on. And I do believe that the kind of trainings we go through actually preparing us for the best, how we can handle the environment, how we can handle the challenges we have. I do call upon my fellow engineers, my fellow students, to take on the challenges. These are opportunities that come once in a while. Imagine we didn't have such opportunities. Us being a disadvantaged country provides a lot of opportunities for us to take on. So I want to thank UIPE a lot for the initiative, and may it continue and go on and on to, I think next time we should have invitations to as many as we can. I think right now it was limited. This is a very great opportunity that everyone that is in the space of engineering should take on, because I believe engineering gives us an opportunity to open up our minds, to open up to the challenges we have and build better and very good solutions to the country and to the continent at large. Thank you so much for all the initiatives, for holding us here and obviously giving us the kind of knowledge we have collected all the way from 9 a.m. And may God reward all the efforts that are seeing this happening, and may it continuously go on and on as we build for a better future and as we improve our country. Thank you so much.
My name is Namlida Viola, and I am a fourth-year student doing telecommunications engineering, a bachelor's at Makerere University. I am so glad for this opportunity and what I have learned in the amazing sessions. Actually, it is kind of so touching. I realized we have so many Ugandans out there who have really, really good hearts. They really care about communities, because, when you be here in town, it looks like everyone is okay. People are driving fancy cars. But when you go back in the villages that we come from, people are really suffering, going through a lot. There are a lot of things that like what people go through in the villages, and it comes with lack of water. They do not have, there are so many challenges. Like, I believe everyone knows in the villages where we come from, because you come from the village and then you come to town to study. But I realize that we have so many NGOs, people who are willing to help people out there in their challenges, and we thank God for the sponsors that they get. And I'm also so privileged to meet the engineers here. I'm so glad. And I'm also, every time I come in such sessions, I be so much humbled to meet the respective honorable people. This is a great opportunity that you grant to us, and we are so much privileged. At this juncture, I would like to welcome, I really don't know how to define her. Okay. I don't know, the Mama Engineering, Mama. Yes. Okay, let's welcome Engineer Dr. Dorothy. She has been the brain behind Royal Academy of Engineering. She was our very first applicant, and she introduced it to us. And then she was also I think, the brain behind Redr. Yes, amongst others. So, Madam Dr. Dorothy, you're welcome.
It is a really great pleasure to be here and see this networking event come to life. We started from a visit to Redr, where I almost got lost, but because geography is certainly not my strength, and the streets in London are not like our streets here in Kampala. There are many, but I thank God that we made it there, and from there, we are now here. So it's a really great privilege for me to be part of this. And the reason I was able to visit Redr was because of the Royal Academy of Engineering. They have been our very, very strong partners as UIPE. We do not take this for granted. So Melanie, on behalf of the whole of the Royal Academy of Engineering, we are so happy to have you here with us in Uganda. And at least you can get to see, we write reports and all that, and people know how to write reports. Let me just leave it at that, So the task we have is to translate the reports we have been writing to the Royal Academy of Engineering into real life. And I want to really say that the preparations towards this, and even this event itself, for the bit I have been able to see, we have lived the report. And thank you all. So we all deserve a hand clap for ourselves. Then I want to thank the president, our president, Engineer Andrew Muhwezi. First of all, I know for the members of UIPE, you had never seen a campaign like the campaign these guys ran. For the members of UIPE, they know it. So we saw the transformation even from the campaign. Thank you for the campaign you ran. And also to Geoffrey, we are really grateful to the two of you that you put up such a campaign that we knew that whatever happened, UIPE was moving from strength to strength. And you did not, there's running a campaign, and I have been on a few campaign trails myself, including running twice for UIPE president, as Engineer Cho will know, and a few others. So, yeah, so it's not an easy thing to do. But to maintain that speed and momentum, really, Engineer Andrew, I have to give you big kudos for it. Because you can promise things and then, you sit back. After all, you're president, what are we going to do? Suppose he does nothing, what are you going to do? Nothing, exactly. So actually, he has no incentive to do anything, isn't it? So to speak, you could promise and then sit back. And we know people who do that, okay? Yeah, so it's not that it's a far-fetched thing. We know that it can actually happen. So we are really very grateful to you. Yeah, so back to the topic. First of all, I really want to thank the people who are doing that for promoting me. My principal might think that I'm planning a bloodless coup because I'm not the college head, I'm the school head, and the school is lower than the college. So I just want to correct that for the people that would be, maybe taking notes and everything. Yeah, so it's the dean for the School of Engineering. And it's really been a very good opportunity for us to collaborate in this space, because I've had the privilege of, first of all, being in academia, and then being very active in UIPE, right? To the point of, serving on council for quite a number of years and being in leadership there, and then coming back into academia. So it's really helped me appreciate what are the challenges that the practicing engineers have, and then also what are our challenges in terms of trying to groom engineers that we then hand over to UIP, because it's a partnership right from the word go, right? So we train the engineers to come out with the necessary qualifications in engineering, and I want to insist on the basics, on the fundamentals of engineering. And then we hand over to UIPE for professional development. So even without it, before Redr or any other partnership, this partnership between Cedat and UIPE is very important. Our students must cross over into UIPE. And for the students who are in the room, who have been in my class, they will know I start thinking about UIPE membership from first year. From first year, because I know they must end up there. Yeah, and you know, in Uganda we have this thing that people say, you know, you get things because of who you know. And I'm like, there's no other way to build who you know in engineering than being a member of UIPE. Okay? Yeah, because that is how it works. All right? And so then when you look at the challenges that we've been going through as engineers, all right, one of the gaps was clearly around the humanitarian skills. And this is how Redr comes into the picture. Okay? So we are very, very grateful for this opportunity, because it's not that we are now trying to figure out between the two of ourselves, how do we go about this? No, we have an expert in the field whom we are able to partner with and then build our capacity. Okay? And so in the first phase of this initiative, Redr were doing all the training. Okay? Redr were doing all the training, and we were doing all the learning. In other words, we were the students. Okay? In the current cohort of the training, we are doing 50-50. Okay? Our people who were trained in the first round are now shadowing, right, the Redr trainers as we prepare for the handover. Okay? In the next round, it is expected, and for any of the trainers who are in here, let me make it very clear. It is expected is the kind way of putting it, but we must, would be the stronger way of putting it, be able to now take over, okay, and deliver this training to our colleagues. And the reason why, again, it is done by the partnership of the two of us is that we shall deliver part of that training as we are doing our training of the students. And even when we have the field, the engineers who are already in the field, UIPE will take care of that. So there is no gap, whether you are still a student or whether you are already beyond being a student. Either way, we've taken care of that, okay? And we look forward to that, and we're very happy to see you here, okay? But engineers, we don't work in isolation, okay? As much as we sometimes think that we know it all, okay? We don't. And so partnership is very, very important, right? And I think at a certain point in organizing this, we were looking around for engineers. We had already filled up the slots for the humanitarian organizations, okay? Which is kind of expected in the way, because engineers, we don't naturally see ourselves in that space. Hopefully, once we mainstream the work we are trying to do here, that will no longer be the case, okay? And so we are very happy that actually we were able to have this. I'm looking forward to the outcome of the speed dating, okay? Because I was targeting some people for speed dating, and I've already reported myself, but all the time they were also very busy. So maybe my interests aligned with many other people's interests as well. Yeah, but we are very happy because partnership is the way that we shall move forward and make progress for our country. The challenges that we have are really enormous. And I'm very happy that Viola said something which I'm always saying in class as well. Okay? All of us come from some village. Now, some people, their village is Kampala, so that's also another story, all right? But if we were to do a census right now, most of us, our village is not Kampala, okay? And for the students, especially the first years, I tell them, the first Christmas you go home, they're going to start calling you engineer. The very first year, first semester, first Christmas, they're going to start calling you engineer, all right? But how does your community feel the presence of you as an engineer? That is the challenge that we have. That even at the level of students, okay, we can either give an idea, because it is our uncles, our brothers, our sisters, our other relatives who are on the local councils. So we may not be in the local council, but there is someone we can talk to who's on the local council, okay? How do we share, okay, some information which would be pertinent to them? That is how we make ourselves feel. As the engineers, they are calling us. Now, when I come on the side of UIPE and ERB, we are really very particular about when you call yourself an engineer, okay? Because for those that have gone through the process of registration, trust me, you want to reserve that title. And that's why you can see, so if you have ever experienced it, ERB is very careful about how we protect the title engineer, okay? Yes, that is also a process to go through, but our communities should really feel that they have engineers within their midst, beyond calling you the clever girl or the clever boy in the village, Because typically, if you're in engineering, that is also your other title, the clever one in the what? In the village. But practically, what is your cleverness doing for them? Okay? So for me, I look at this opportunity we are having here as an opportunity to strengthen our engagement in the various communities. Okay? Starting from the communities where we come from, because charity begins at home. Okay? Not all of us will be able to be on a rescue mission in Bududa, or even in the floods here. Okay, I often use the example when we are at Cedat, that we are not very far from Boise. Okay? But I don't know if you were to go to Boise, and for the Katie and Melina, Boise, I can walk to Boise, and I am not very fit. So by the time I tell you I can walk that, it's just to show you how near Boise is to the College of Engineering. But the question I always pose, do the people in Boise feel that there are engineers around them? Yeah, so we don't have to go to our villages. You may say that my village is in Nebi or wherever you can think is very far. But we have one near us, okay? How do those people feel the presence of engineers in the community, okay? What excites me about this program we are doing is that even if it's not our mainstream curriculum and we are working towards embedding more and more of it in the curriculum, our students have extra curriculum, okay? And they do certifications, yeah? Yeah, so if I speak in the telecom space, everyone wants to be Cisco certified and everything. It's not part of our curriculum, but they want to also graduate with it. So why not also graduate with a certain, a degree of expertise in the humanitarian skills? So we see this really as just the beginning. We're very happy that we have the students also here as part of it, because I don't believe anyone can really minister to the students more than the students themselves. So Ian, Noah, and Phil, all of you who have seen here, you have even a bigger challenge, because you are the ones who are going to be our disciples in the community. For me, if I say to this, another thing they want us to learn. No. It's not another thing we want you to learn. It's another thing we want you to experience. And for the NGOs who are here, we welcome you. I know he would say the same. We also welcome you greatly to Cedat. If you have any challenges, don't worry about how we shall solve them. Let's discuss, okay? Because in engineering, we believe we are problem solvers. Now, we may bring a hammer when you need just a tap, but that's why we discuss. Then we agree that the hammer we are coming with is too big a solution. Let's come up with something later. But really, we do have a challenge, giving what I think to our students are interesting local problems. All right? Yeah, so it's my great pleasure to declare the workshop, the networking event actually, closed, but I hope it's just a closure of this particular event, but the beginning of our deeper collaboration, especially as I think the closing remarks we had from the NGO side, I could relate. So we have a lot of work we need to do. So that's why this is a closing only of the event, but an opening for the rest of our collaboration and partnership together. Thank you all.